Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. This is Rakesh Rao, Executive Editor of Industrial Product Finder magazine, welcoming you for the virtual webinar, virtual panel discussion on the Aatmanirbharta through manufacturing excellence. This is the second in the series of webinars that we would be hosting as a part of 3i Expo, which will be held in the month of May this year at the Nehru Center, Mumbai. The first webinar of 3i Expo series was held on the topic of Vision 2025 for Indian manufacturing sector on February 23rd. We will share more details about the 3i Expo later today while during this webinar. So before we begin today's proceedings, let me share a few words about Industrial Product Finder. So Industrial Product Finder magazine is a 51-year-old publication which reaches to more than 1 lakh monthly readers through its magazines and a website, that is the ipfonline.com. It offers an assortment of news, views, interviews, well-researched articles, and product information. In addition to the publication, we also organize annually the IPF Industrial Excellence Awards for innovative products, fastest growing companies, and best entrepreneurs and emerging startups. Besides, IPF also offers news on the WhatsApp for the readers who want industry updates on the move. Since its inception in 1972, IPF has been playing a pivotal role in providing information about latest products and technologies to fulfill the needs of Indian manufacturers. With the manufacturing sector getting ready for smart, connected, and Industry 4.0 compliant factories, Industrial Product Finder magazine is all set to be a trusted partner in this journey. As part of this effort, IPF will be hosting the second edition of 3i Expo 2023 in May with the theme of Factories of the Future, to bring all the stakeholders who are involved in increasing the productivity and green quotient of factories on one platform. With this, I would like to invite my colleague, Ms. Rushali, to share more details about 3i Expo. Over to you, Rushali.
Thank you, Rakesh. The manufacturing India has emerged as one of the growth sectors as our Prime Minister's focus shifted to Make in India. We have been working hard to put India on a global map of manufacturing. A very recent survey shows that around 72% of manufacturers are increasing their efforts towards digitization. And industry needs a platform to understand the level of digitization, to learn about what are the technologies, to get inspired from the pedigree and control technologies as they redefine the business. With this objective in mind, IPF last year planned a 3i Expo, an exposition along with conference and awards to bring in the manufacturing, engineering, operations, the entire fraternity under one roof to discuss what is the way forward and how we can reach there. The objective of the event, as I just mentioned, is to optimize, modernize, train, innovate our manufacturing industry and accelerate our productivity. The first edition, you can look at, we had great speakers, we had an excellent awards, we had good expo area. These were some of our partners last year. Some prominent speakers and personalities who attended 3i Expo in 2022. The second edition this year promises to be even bigger and better. The Expo will have a platform for the industrial manufacturing sector to display products. Here we can understand what are the new trends and technologies, including robotics, AI, ML, advanced automation, etc. This is the Expo floor plan. It is happening at Nehru Center Hall of Knowledge. We have very well designed booths. There are smaller sizes as well, so that MSMEs can take a huge advantage of the offerings that I have. More details about this can be sought from our sales team, and please connect with us if you need any further details on this. The conference this year focuses on factories of the future, and we would have a specific CIO CTO roundtable that discusses IT landscape and how it is affecting or impacting the value chain and manufacturing. We look forward to have a mini masterclass specifically for MSMEs who want to start their automation journey and what should be the key steps towards this. Along with this, we have several panel discussion, keynotes. So if you want to know more about the details of the topics that we're asking, connect with me on this. Like every year, we have awards which focus on product and fastest growing SMEs. The nominations for this are already live on our website. So please visit the website and nominate your products and companies. The jury last year. Some testimonials. We have had great response from the people who attended last year as well. So, and we have another such webinar happening on 5th of April. So do register for that as well. Before signing off, let me quickly show you a small video. Sorry, I think there was some lag in the video and the audio there. Uh, Rakesh, I think you can please take it up and we can play it in the end, the video in the end. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Vishali, for your presentation. So let me move on to our main agenda of the day, that is the panel discussion. So over the years, various policy initiatives have been taken to promote India's manufacturing sector. A turning point was seen when the Aatmanirbharta Bharat initiative was announced in 2020 amid a COVID pandemic to achieve self-reliance in manufacturing sector in India through a combination of policy reforms and government support. As a part of this initiative, the government also introduced the production linked incentive schemes for 14 sectors with an outlay of about 1.97 trillion rupees. While this was happening on the domestic front, globally in the aftermath of COVID pandemic, countries were forced to look for alternatives to China to source products. As a result, many big global companies formulated their China plus one policy to diversify their supply chains and minimize risk. While this presents many business opportunities, possibilities for Indian manufacturers in the global market, they have to compete with other emerging countries in Asia. Today's panel discussion will explore new opportunities for Indian companies resulting from the changed geopolitical scenario and also highlight the importance of modern manufacturing technologies to become a truly global manufacturing hub. With these opening remarks, I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists for today's discussion. We have with us Mr. Aditya Chaudhary, who is the director of sales for Hexagon Smart Manufacturing in India. He is responsible for establishing Hexagon's unique and pioneering quality management solutions within the manufacturing ecosystem of the country. He is a seasoned business leader and digital evangelist who has rich experience in guiding companies adopt new technologies for business transformation. Prior to joining Hexagon, Mr. Aditya has worked with Rockwell Automation, Dassault System, and ANSYS in various capabilities. Welcome, Mr. Aditya. Then we have Mr. G. Sundaraman, who is the co-CEO of Wipro Pari Private Limited, the automation solution business of Wipro Infrastructure Engineering. He is responsible for positioning the company as a key player in industrial automation solution. Mr. Sundar is known for his ability to turn around organizations and is responsible for the sectoral and geographical expansion of the automation and digitalization business of Wipro. He has over 33 years of experience in leadership role across multiple functions. We also have Mr. Srikanth Aradhya, who is the GM and head of Business Industry 4.0 at Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions. He is a practice head in Industry 4.0 with experience of 29 plus years in the areas of delivery management, account, program management, software development across manufacturing, oil and gas, and consumer packaged goods industry verticals. Mr. Srikanta has an excellent track record of growing profitable business, conceptualizing strategic solutions, and developing innovative products. Then we have Mr. Sunil Mehta, who is the GM e-factory strategic planning in the factory automation and industrial division of Mitsubishi Electric India. He is promoting e-factory concept of Mitsubishi Electric for smart manufacturing. Mr. Mehta is also the president of Automation Industry Association from January 2022. And last, we have Mr. Zoran Marolia, who is the senior VP at Godrej and Boyce. Mr. Marolia chairs the company's manufacturing council, which is a group of prominent leaders in the manufacturing field who are dedicated to achieving manufacturing success at Godrej and Boyce through a collaborative environment that promotes, facilitates, and advocates best-in-class manufacturing. Mr. Marulia is also a member of CII's National Manufacturing Council. So on behalf of IPF and 3I Expo, I would welcome you all and I would look forward to a very elaborate and engaging discussion. So let me start the proceedings today with first question to Mr. Sunil Mehta. Mr. Mehta, given the trade balance that India has today, what does Aatmanirbharta means, self-reliance means to you?
Yeah, good afternoon all, and first of all, thank you IPF for this organizing this interesting webinar on the topic that you have briefed just now. Basically, as the government has started, the Atmanirbhar, the word itself is very clear that we need to be independent and we need to reduce our imports as much as possible. So, with the Make in India initiative by the government and many activities are happening in last post-pandemic, I think we are moving in the right direction. If you see, in as an India, as a country, we are more on agriculture because we have a lot of agricultural area. But now the manufacturing, the industry, the the automation, automotive industries, the growth is quite phenomenal, and we are moving towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. And for that, a lot of support, as you rightly said, regarding this PLI schemes and many other initiatives by the government. A lot of efforts are going into that direction. And another point is that with Atmanirbharta also, we also would like to, I would also like to comment that we've got a good software engineers or the engineering background people across the country, and our engineers are working in a different domain or different fields at a various sector. So with this, definitely we will go ahead with Atmanirbhar Bharat. As far as Mitsubishi Electric is considered, we have recently acquired a land in Talegaon, and we are also setting up a manufacturing plant in India. So you can see that a lot of, not only Mitsubishi, a lot of Japanese companies and European companies are investing in India to make a manufacturing hub. So that's a really positive sentiments and positive scenario vis-a-vis compared to the countries and the GDPs and other things what we look into the neighboring countries. So that's the point I would like to make here.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta, for your opening remarks. So while we have been talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, we all know that in 2014, Prime Minister Narendra Modi coined the term as "Make in India." And again in August 2020, the government of India announced Aatmanirbhar Bharat scheme in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Marulia, I would like to know from you, do you see a difference between these two, that is Make in India and Aatmanirbhar Bharat, with respect to the approach of the government and also the industry?
So, first and foremost, of course, good afternoon, everybody, and nice to be here on this platform. So the way I see it, the difference between Make in India and Aatmanirbhar Bharat is Aatmanirbhar Bharat is all about self-reliance, and Make in India is on, focus on creating an environment for businesses to set up and manufacture products in India. But now if one steps back and looks a little at it a little dispassionately, in a way, Aatmanirbhar Bharat is a step towards MII. So it's a building block towards MII. So, it's similar to when the economy opened up in the early 90s. We always faced this challenge about inclusive growth, which, we termed in various ways, India versus Bharat or whatever. So here again, you see, there is the challenge of the growth rates, not just in terms of the volumes, but also in terms of how the various sectors can pick up onto this growth plan of Aatmanirbhar, as well as the big dream of Make in India. So in the case of growth in manufacturing sector, of course, there's one more aspect to it. The MSME sector cannot be allowed to be left behind, because if the large manufacturing factories are to grow and they are to do it with Aatmanirbharta, then it is the MSMEs that are going to be able to, will provide that role of being the feeders. So that is a major difference between the two, that we now have to focus on strengthening that MSME. So we at Godrej and Boyce have been working, for example, with our supplier partner, MSME partner base, to actually help them enhance their ways of working, starting with very basic steps, basic hygiene steps, taking them then onto management and onto management systems in more structural, because a lot of these are really family businesses that have grown beyond a point, and so helping them plan for the future, to see and then to be able to get into that growth phase. So because as an organization, we are 125 years old, and we were founded on the basis of what was known as the Swatantra movement back then, which today is nothing but Aatmanirbharta. It's the independence, self-reliant movement, if one were to say it. And therefore, this is our contribution towards taking this Aatmanirbhar, making this Aatmanirbhar Bharat a success, so that finally that Make in India can be given the kind of life that we want to see, where we have that 25% contribution of the manufacturing sector into the national GDP.
Thank you, Mr. Marolia. Mr. Sundar, would you like to add to what Mr. Marolia said with respect to the difference in the approach of the government and the industry towards when you talk about Aatmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India?
Sure. Thanks, Rakesh. Happy to be part of this webinar and share my thoughts. Basically, when we look at it, Make in India and self-reliant India today, the current form of manufacturing activities, we don't just end up boxing it up. What I mean by boxing it up is, earlier, if a cell phone or a smartphone manufacturing setup has to come to India, the complete assembled PCB will get imported, the LEDs will get imported, the plastic parts will get imported, and we'll just box it up, test and ship it out. And that ecosystem is completely changing now. And that's one which will really make a self-reliant India. Today, we are talking about the entire value chain getting planned in India. Be it design, be it procurement, be it manufacturing, be it sub-assembly, be it parts manufacturing, be it full assembly, testing and delivery. That ecosystem will be much more sustainable and deep-rooted. As the earlier panelists mentioned, this will also percolate to the MSME sector as a feeder to this large integrated manufacturing ecosystem. So today, when we are talking about electronics manufacturing, today we are talking about chips and semiconductors and wafers to be made in India. That kind of a native product design, process design is going to be a very important step for India. And towards this, Wipro, as many of you are aware, is India's largest discrete automation company, globally positioned factories across the world, be it in Germany, be it in US, and a large facility and integration setup, manufacturing and integration setup at Pune, providing a turnkey end-to-end automation solutions. So in this journey of manufacturing ecosystem and manufacturing excellence, we will be providing India-centric automation solutions to all the emerging growth sectors in their journey to improve their productivity as well as global quality.
Thank you, Mr. Sundar. Like our previous panelist has commented on the importance of MSMEs in the supply chain, and also the manufacturing is moving from assembly line to, say, developing a complete value chain within the country. With this as a background and in general as a manufacturing segment, keeping in your point of view, Mr. Aditya Chaudhary, what do you think are the key bottlenecks in the growth of India's manufacturing sector?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, good afternoon, everyone, and very pleased to be part of the esteemed group of panelists. So according to me, some of the challenges which I see, I like to divide it into two categories. One is the macroeconomic challenges which we have, and the biggest challenge which currently I see is towards the cost of capital. Now, if you see, manufacturing is a capital intensive industry, and it requires investment upfront. So if you compare it with some of the peer countries or competitors to India, cost of capital continues to be on a higher side. Of course, there were some steps taken prior to the current wave of hikes, which was announced by the RBI, but still it continues to remain on a higher side. Second is logistics and infrastructure continue to remain as big challenges. I'm glad that government also recognizes these challenges and has started to take actions in these directions. Now coming to the sector specific industry challenges specific to manufacturing industry, the first one I would like to put it as the scale of manufacturing. Right now, if you look at the statistical data which talks about the role of MSMEs, so MSMEs currently have about 30% share in the India's GDP. Now, MSMEs need capital to grow to create scale of manufacturing. Now, again, links back to the macroeconomic challenges that the cost of capitals are higher, and we are not able to achieve those, economies through scale. Compare this with China. China has primarily grown through the economies of scale. I mean, they have been able to very rapidly grow such companies through either sector-specific incentives or their government companies lending them out. So that has not been a challenge with our competing companies. Next, I would say is a very paradoxical problem, and that is unskilled labor. The reason it's a paradox is that India boasts to be a country with a very large young demographics, but at the same time, our our engineers, fresh engineers coming from the colleges are not considered employable. So I was looking at some data coming into this webinar, and what I found out was that the skew is extremely high with respect to unskilled labor, or rather, a lack of skilled labor. So if you compare this with some of the industrialized economy, I'll give you some data. So India currently has about 4.7% of its engineers who are formally trained in manufacturing. Compare this with the USA, which is approximately 60%, and Japan is 80%. Even our neighboring country, China, is 24% of the engineers are skilled for manufacturing jobs. So that's a big skew, I think, and I think Government of India needs to look in this direction. And I think this is where we need to make rapid advancements. And the last point is the quality of Indian products. Now, again, I'll fall back on some data in this regard. When you look at some of the surveys which are conducted, and these surveys are published regularly by the UN Trade Statistics Organization, and they point that the amount of import which the Western world does for highly engineered products, which is actually in an indicator of high quality products, the share for India is less than 10%. Whereas if you compare it with even Vietnam, which is considered a smaller economy than us, has got a higher share of precision engineered equipment to the Western economies. So these, according to me, are some of the challenges. And I think during the course of the discussion, we should talk about how do we kind of mitigate those.
Thank you, Mr. Aditya. So, coming to Mr. Srikanta, why, according to you, is adopting modern technologies like advanced automation, robotics is key to achieve manufacturing excellence. Just now, Mr. Aditya spoke about economic of scale and also to certain extent skill and quality. So that is also one of the need to become a more excellent, to increase the excellency in the manufacturing. So keeping that into account, how do you see uh, adopting modern technologies as a tool to achieve that objective?
Right. Thank you, Rakesh, for that question. First of all, very good afternoon to all the people who are attending this webinar, and very privileged to be part of this esteemed panel. I would like to answer that question on how modern technologies, especially the Industry 4.0 technologies, help in achieving manufacturing excellence. I would like to answer it on two categories. One is competition, and the second is survival. Now, if you see Industry 4.0, when the term was coined and when the concept was coined way back 10 years back, Bosch was one of the pioneers. And the very concept had its foundation on bringing manufacturing back to the own countries. That means Germany was actually losing manufacturing to many of the third world countries, and they wanted to bring the manufacturing back and the jobs back. And that was one of the reasons why Industry 4.0 got into the picture. So why I'm telling this is, now today Indian manufacturers are not competing with their local partners or local competition. They are exposed to an international competition. And earlier, possibly upper countries or the first world countries used to do a wage arbitrage when they give manufacturing jobs to other countries. But that wage arbitrage no longer exists, because many of these first world countries have adopted modern technologies. These modern technologies give them higher efficiencies, higher productivity, and so they are able to use their high value labor and also increase their productivity and efficiency and produce very competing products. So when you're competing with such corporates or such manufacturing companies in the other world, you also need to adapt to the manufacturing new technologies. That means most of those Industry 4.0 technologies which help you in productivity gain, reducing your quality defects, improving your efficiencies, making your manpower more skilled, these have to be adapted. The second part is in terms of survival. Possibly I will explain this in terms of an anecdote. Prior to COVID pandemic, since I used to head this Center of Excellence in Bosch, we had produced many manufacturing apps by means of which possibly a manufacturing head could see what were the efficiencies of his manufacturing line on his mobile phone. And when we used to take it to our customers, many people used to tell us, what is the need of this? I can as well send many people inside and they will find out what is the efficiency. I don't need a manufacturing app for it on my mobile phone. But once COVID happened, you can't even enter a manufacturing plant. You had a lot of social norms. And you had to operate your manufacturing plants remotely. That means you had to have technology base by means you can operate a plant remotely, you can diagnose it, you can effectively run it. And that's how people really woke up or opened their eyes to how new technologies can really make them survive, even in a very bad environment. So for survival, you have to now go for technologies. And if you want to possibly thinking of new business models, which can also help you in survival, because manufacturing companies should not end up like a Kodak or a Nokia. You need to look at new business models which can help you to fight your competition and to grow. So both on these grounds, for survival and for growing, I would say modern technologies, Industry 4.0 technologies are really the key. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shrikanta. Mr. Marolia, what is your analysis of the present status of Indian manufacturing sector when it comes to adoption of modern manufacturing technologies? You can talk about large scale, medium, and maybe SMEs. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. So I think a very important point has been touched upon in whatever we've been discussing on this panel, is the fact that there is the need for modern technologies to be imbibed. And in larger organization and large factories, this level of imbibing of modern technologies is happening at a, I would say, a healthy pace. The point is that when there has to be interaction, inter-organization interaction, which is also essential, that is when there is a bit of a lag that is being faced. See, we have to get one thing clear, that when we look at manufacturing, it is not just what is happening within the four walls of our respective factories. It is a lot of the inflow and the outflow. In fact, we were talking, there was a Japanese gentleman who was referring to it as big M versus small m. Small m is what happens in your factory, big M is your end-to-end. That is your complete supply chain. So in order to build into that complete supply chain, that is where there are still certain blocks that are coming in. Now, the government is definitely doing a lot in terms of the, the incentive scheme, in terms of the, productivity, the linked incentive, etc. But we need to be able to enhance the pace of proliferation of these new technologies. Now, the challenge here is not just bringing it in, but the adaptation to it, which is where I use the term appropriate automation and the appropriate digitization that is required, because that again has to be done in a way, in a scalable manner, where the smaller players are in a position to invest, get the benefits, see the benefits, and take that further. Now, this is where there is some kind of a challenge coming in. There are certain inefficiencies in the system, which we will talk about a little later. But in the present stage, getting ourselves competitive is how are we going to address the needs of the global customer. See, because today we're talking about how are we going to take ourselves onto the global, make ourselves globally significant. That is where the entire point is. Now, the entire effort has got to be customer-centric. And therefore, as the customer's needs are evolving, so are the responses of the manufacturing sector to evolve in order to ensure that we remain competitively relevant. So it's not just a question of cost, it is a question of cost, it's a quality, it's a response. And these are areas where we need to sharpen ourselves. We are still found wanting in this. Now, one very important point made earlier was in terms of economies of scale. Now, that is a very, very important, I would call it a niche in a way, which has been taken over by the large factories that we have seen in operation in our neighbors. They have certain challenges now. There are opportunities coming up, but by and large, that space today in the global reference is comparatively addressed. We need to be able to find something that the customer will want beyond that. And that is where our demographics and our engineering skills, which of course, as Mr. Chaudhary has mentioned, also needs to be sharpened. But that is where it is going to be able to give us the advantage. We have a language advantage, we have a demographic advantage, okay? But we need to sharpen the other parts of it in order to make use of that advantage. And a little later, of course, we will also speak about the efficiencies of the entire system. So if you ask me today, the potential is there, but there are these soft gaps that need to be addressed and addressed very fast. Finally, there is the point of the infrastructure when we talk about the whole thing. And I believe that here the government is doing a lot. Specifically, it is very noticeable in the last couple of years that this has become a focus area. Because when you look at global competitiveness, the percentage of logistics in the overall cost, India is the highest, among the highest in the world. That itself should tell us, throw up that warning light. And that is something that I believe will also get addressed. So the inefficiencies and the logistics together will give us a good competitive benefit. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Mehta, how do you look at the status of Indian manufacturing when it comes to adopting modern technologies?
Yeah, as already said by Mr. Marolia, that's The automation, I think the bigger companies, you talk about the bigger companies, the automation levels are quite high, and these technologies are being adopted for last maybe a couple of years, and the progress is quite good. But if you talk about MSMEs and SMEs, the automation levels are still low. And I would like to say that there are a lot of challenges coming in when we talk about brownfield factories. Because if you talk about the greenfield projects, yes, a lot of new equipments comes, then the controllers and all the latest technologies are being adopted over there. But if you talk about the existing equipments or the legacy equipments, you talk about the old machines, the lathe and the CNC controllers and all these things, they are not able to communicate to the external world. So those challenges are there in our manufacturing industry. People are discussing about Industry 4.0 or smart manufacturing or e-factory in a bigger way on various platforms. But if you talk about even again, the small and the medium scale companies, the skills of the people who are going to utilize this technology is a big challenge, because we need to upgrade the skills of the people. The young generation is techno-savvy. They can very easily use the smartphones and all the things. But the people who are already in the shop floor, or maybe in the age of 40 to 60 or something like that, we have large operators base in this age gap, and they are not so techno-savvy. So any new technology adoption on the shop floor has come up with different challenges. And automation levels, we are talking about Industry 4.0 and everything, but then we need to have a base. We need to have an entire plant automated. Then this deployment of Industry 4.0 or digitalization or smart manufacturing will be feasible. So we are still lacking in that area. That's what my point for this.
So are you seeing this lack of adaptability in medium to small scale companies more?
It is more, yes. And people are not still, because many of the companies are owner driven. So they are not really convinced about maybe investing in that things. What will be the ROI? What will be outcome I will get out of it? Because my machines are producing. Even though machines are 20 years old, they are producing the components. So why I should recondition that or something like that? So that type of challenges are coming into it. But of course, some people, and whenever the young generation comes into the business, at some areas the things are getting changed, but the change of entire thing is the space is very slow. Applying the robotics in India is very, very less. If you talk about the statistical fact of the robotics against 10,000 people, the statistic fact itself says that the robotic application in India is very, very poor compared to all other countries, advanced countries. Okay.
Mr. Srikanta, so according to you, what are the challenges in adopting or incorporating modern technologies besides, say, capital? Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Rakesh, for that question. I would say there could be few challenges which we have come across in many of our interaction with customers in India and outside. Especially if you look at India, the first challenge I would say is in terms of defining a clear vision and an objective. That means the modern technologies incorporation should not happen just for the hype of the technology, because people talk about AR/VR, metaverse, manufacturing, all those things. But then you need to have a vision being a manufacturer. What is that you are going to achieve by putting that technology in place? And there should be a clear-cut objective behind having, and how do you run with that vision? This is the first thing. Second thing is, I feel there should be an executive commitment, because many times it's a top-down approach when you are incorporating a new technology in your plant. And executive commitment also should not be risk-averse. That means many times we see that people do not want to take risk with a new technology or with a new solution. So they go into something called as a POC trap. That means you do this, then try it out, and if it becomes successful, then let me scale it further. So this leads to a lot of time, effort wastage, because many of the new technologies, what we think are new, are already been deployed very successfully outside India. So what is that you are really proving it as a concept or as a capability? Because many of the vendors or product people here, know these technologies are working well. So there is nothing like a POC anymore. So people or the executives should be more risk enabled, mitigating, and going ahead with these new technologies. This is one thing which I see lacking in India, especially people think twice, go for a POC or such things. The third thing, like my fellow panelist, Mr. Sunil Mehta mentioned, the change management. Finally, whatever technology and whatever solution you apply should be beneficial to the operator and to the shop floor people. They need to start liking the technology. They need to start using the technology. So there should be effective change management process when you deploy any new technology in terms of skilling up the people, in terms of training the people, in terms of using it. And even the technology when it is being offered should be in a very easy to use and a value driven way. And one more challenge I would see in Indian environment is we end up with a lot of possibly point solutions, selecting very unreliable vendors. Maybe I spend less amount of money, take it from my neighborhood vendor, and then end up with a solution which is technologically not good and it's not also scalable. So that will be a investment down the drain. So you also need to look at selecting an experienced and reliable vendor. And the last one I feel is we need to assess our plans. We need to find out what is our maturity level, where we are currently, and how I can really go down a maturity map or a roadmap. So possibly a consultant or possibly a good product vendor could really help you in that. Because many times when we go and talk to Indian customers, immediately they talk of predictive maintenance algorithm or AI ML, whereas your machines are not connected on the shop floor. So I think you need to have that maturity roadmap very clearly. And what are the enabling technologies we have to put, connect all your machines, visualize, and then look at the higher technologies. So I think these are the few challenges which I would like to. Thank you.
I would like to address the next question to Mr. Sundar. Okay, Mr. Maruli want to come in.
Just want to add a little bit to what Mr. Shrikanta said. There is a basic building blocks that are required. For example, codifications of the various components, working out the, of course, communication is a little ahead of what I'm speaking about, but the basic codification, the building up of the, bill of material, what all is going. These are things which then become the building blocks for us to be able to later on, work on these POCs. I think the reason why POCs are required is that our building blocks itself are not in place. When you look at that very grassroots level, and that is where the building has to really start from. So you're so very right when you say that it is not just the application supplier, software supplier. It's a basic consultancy work that needs to be done in terms of an education that needs to be done at that level. I think that was a very valid point, which again is what I said, that the companies at the big factories could put all this in place, but finally if you have to get a barcode or a QR code printed at a supplier's place, that whole system then becomes a challenge. Yeah, I think you'd like to respond to that. You're muted.
Definitely supplement what you say. Maybe one thing which I missed, which I also wanted to say, is the ROI part of solutions. Because many a times modern technologies look very good, create a lot of hype, but then what is the return of investment at the end of the day? I understand that all the technologies need not give you returns. They're enabling technologies like connectivity. But then when you're looking at a particular business case, particular use case, and the value being driven, it should be ROI based. So I think that is one thing which Indian manufacturers are very clear. Kahan hai mera paisa, kahan se aata hai. But then this is one challenge which we also see in the market.
So I would like to address the next question to Mr. Sundar. While the world is talking about China plus one policy to diversify sourcing away from China, there are many beneficiaries, including India, because of this trend. From India's perspective, how is the competitive landscape when it comes to receiving global investments in the manufacturing sector?
Yeah, thanks, Rakesh. I think China plus one policy for India is a real time at which we are experiencing the massive change and the transformation in the manufacturing ecosystem. I would say there are three growth sectors for India. I would call it as a 3E First E for electronics manufacturing, which we are apparently seeing the way the global majors are all investing in India. The second E is electric vehicle. Electric vehicle is a great opportunity for India because the global production ecosystem itself is very nascent. We are talking about 2-3% penetration globally, and India penetration is not more than 2-3% at this point of time. And electric vehicle as an industry, as an ecosystem, India could displace significantly the manufacturing ecosystem globally as an emerging leader. Third important point I wanted to mention is about e-commerce. We are seeing this retail automation penetrating faster than any other country in India. As the earlier panelists mentioned, Marolia mentioned about the building blocks and the barcode system. While the traditional factories, manufacturing factories, industrial factories have a catch-up game to play, I am seeing on the retail side, the consumer market side, the penetration of all the technologies that we have talked have significantly improved in India. That's a positive side of the story. We have always been an ITES service sector led country in the last 2 to 3 decades. And that is something which we have to leverage for our manufacturing ecosystem. And today we order, be it a 10-minute delivery, we order a carrot or any vegetable. It comes with barcoded label delivered to our homes in metros. Of course, in the rural side also, there is a back-end revolution which is happening on the e-commerce segment, which is much more significant compared to the conventional manufacturing, industrial manufacturing area. So in all these 3 sectors, what I mean to say is we have a huge opportunity, not just China +1 policy, but steer a India-centric revolution, manufacturing revolution in all these 3 sectors. Specifically talking about electric vehicle, we thought at least on the lithium dependency could be there in India. But with the discovery right now with reference to the reserves, the lithium reserves in J&K, fortunately that issue also is going to be behind us, and we are now talking about cell level manufacturing, modules and battery packs on the electric vehicle. I'm going to take a little a minute more, Rakesh, because I need to log off at 4:30 today from the webinar. So I'll take a minute more to convey one optimistic story for India, maybe a little counterpoint to what Sunil mentioned earlier about the robots statistics, which is often quoted in robotics and automation conferences, where we always quote China robot retail is about 200,000 per annum, whereas in India we have about 5,000 robots per annum as the robots getting retail, and that's an indicator of automation. But probably we are missing one significant change, in the sense like India need not follow China in every aspect of the manufacturing industry optimization or manufacturing industry revolution which is happening. And we have seen it in banking sector, we have seen it in the UPI related transformation, the Aadhaar which was launched out, the government schemes which are getting rolled out with reference to the applications. COVID period, we had a COVID application which was globally recognized by us. So we have our own mechanism of evolving solutions which are India-centric solution. We are very proud to have the largest two-wheeler factory in India, which is producing at 14 seconds stack time. And India is the largest two-wheeler manufacturing market as well. And India produces the India largest backhoe production. The big machine production is in India. India is the largest producer of backhoes in the world. And we talk about every 2 minutes a backhoe getting rolled out. And these factories are fairly automated. And then wherever appropriately the robots have to be deployed, be it in building, be it in certain specific applications or in painting, we definitely see the robots getting deployed. But rest of the areas, we are also seeing that the companies are evolving India-centric automation, which is very significant. And the same trend I would see that it emerges in the digitalization area also. Probably we will adopt something which is very unique, not just conventional follower of the platforms, which are very large platforms, which are deployed across global factories, but something which is specific to India-centric organizations, India-centric manufacturing ecosystem. The digital applications could evolve. The track and trace solutions could be uniquely developed for India. The monitoring, control, and optimization solutions using AI and ML technologies is something which will evolve. I'm very positive that the opportunities are all converging today, be it with reference to post-pandemic realignment of manufacturing ecosystem, China plus one policy, which most of the global majors have started adopting, and Indian companies. So, for example, I'm just touching for a second on the Wipro Pari itself. So far, we always had automation companies from the global giving solutions to set up manufacturing factories in India. Today, we are talking about Indian automation company providing solutions to global car makers, be it in Detroit or be it in Vietnam or be it in Germany. We provide the complete battery pack assembly solutions. We provide the e-motor, e-transmission automation solutions, all designed, manufactured, and solution integration done in Pune. And that's the kind of a ecosystem which can emerge in every growth sector in India, and we'll just have to be concentrated in taking it up further. And government support is there, but industries should play a much larger role in taking it further. Thank you, Rakesh.
Thank you, Mr. Sundar, for your elaborate answer. And since you're going to be logging out at 4:30, thanks for being part of this panel discussion. So moving on to the next question to our panelist, Mr. Aditya Chaudhary. Can you touch upon, or what is your view on the fact that given the China 1+ policy of the global majors, and also India is competing with other Asian countries to take the, to grab the investment opportunities. So what is your view on this particular landscape, that the competitive landscape that India is facing?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Rakesh. I think I partly concur with what Mr. Sundaraman had mentioned about India-centric way of manufacturing growth, and I think this is going to be the future. On certain areas, I have a different take, especially on India plus or China plus one. In my opinion, the era of large-scale outsourcing of manufacturing is over. I think the growth route which China took in mid-90s is no longer open to us, because I think West has seen enough and they would not want to replicate that with India. And I think what would ultimately tilt the balance in our favor is that India also offers a very large domestic consumption market. And mind you, with the current GDP, which is one of the healthiest in the world, we are set to grow the fastest in the next few years. And given the demographic dividend, this will continue to play for us. I'll just like to give you an example that how sometimes a combination of domestic consumption and export can pay rich dividends for this kind of expansion and growth in India. So there is a very large electronics component manufacturer which is coming up in south of India, and they will be buying so many CNC machines that the manufacturer of the CNC machine ultimately decided to start up a base in India. So this is a clear example where the domestic demand and also coupled with exports is pulling people to India to manufacture high-end technology equipments in India. So that's number one. Number two is that the initiatives which the government has taken, especially related to improving the logistics, and I think Mr. Maroli also mentioned that how we have been able to see the results of that effort in the past couple of years. So according to me, that is going to be a game changer. And also, India may not focus on all the areas where our competitors are currently present. Like, for example, low-end electronics manufacturing. I don't think that India would ever want to play in that segment at all. I think India should find its own niche. And in some way, we have already started to see some shades of that, especially with defense manufacturing. India has got very high aspirations to be a large defense exporter. And this has been, can be seen very clearly from the policy which even the Ministry of Defense is taking in terms of identifying certain areas where there is no import allowed, which means that those products have to be made in India. So I think that could be a game changer. You look at the example of how India is now exporting the BrahMos missile system. And with this Airbus military aircraft coming up in Baroda, I think that also presents huge export possibilities in future. And these are all high-end technology equipment which will be manufactured in India. So I think India is very well poised in the global market to take advantage of this China +1 or whatever +1 policy you may want to call it. But India is set to emerge as a major manufacturing destination for the globe.
Thank you, Mr. Aditya. Mr. Mehta, just like we have mentioned, we have been talking about competitive landscape, especially in Asia. So how do you see how competitive are the Indian manufacturers vis-a-vis their other Asian competitors? We would like to exclude China for the time being.
I really don't have much statistic about this, but I believe that whatever we are manufacturing in India today, I'm sure that the quality of the entire things has really improved over the periods, and we are equally competitive to the countries, neighboring countries. Talk about Thailand, or maybe talk about Vietnam and all these areas, and of course compared to Europe. I feel that the quality and the products what we are manufacturing within India in different industry verticals. You talk about textile, F&B, and then we talk about pharmaceuticals, where a lot of automation has already been deployed. And of course, automotive industries has already been correctly said that electric vehicles and everything. We are quite competitive in these various industry verticals compared to our neighboring countries, as you said, that excluding China.
Coming to Mr. Maroli again, you already touched upon the internal inefficiencies of the companies, how it is affecting the competitiveness of Indian manufacturers. So would you like to elaborate more on the internal inefficiencies and how it is affecting the India's competitive edge? Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So, three major pillars on which competitiveness is built. Internal competitiveness is, of course, quality, delivery, and cost. And probably I'd like to speak a little bit about each of them. And I'll take up quality first, since that's one of the last points that Mr. Mehta referred to. You see, where quality is concerned also, the very definition of quality has got evolved so much over the last couple of decades. I mean, I remember when we first spoke of quality, and I'm speaking with 30 plus years of experience, quality was defined as fitness for use. Today, quality has gone on to addressing the latent, unspoken needs of the customer. But somewhere we are still stuck at fitness for use. Or maybe we've gone a little beyond that. Maybe we've gone to customer delight. But we need to understand that the customer has evolved. And as long as the customer did not have a choice, you had a customer with you. As the customer gets choice, okay, that is where the challenges start. Now, getting that quality right and getting it right at a competitive price is your next challenge. Because the cost that goes into getting that quality right, okay, so the cost of prevention versus the cost of detection. And detection leads to rework, which are all, intangible costs which get quietly built in, and suddenly you realize that, hey, I'm no longer, or somewhere I'm facing a competitiveness grab. So the overall approach to quality itself is something which we need to, where the change is, in certain cases where it has to be done. We have to look at, being able to predict problems. You got to look at process capability, process stability, so that if you define that process right, your product is going to be right. So that is one part of it. And this requires a huge amount of data, which again will come to us from IT, from systems, from automation, from digitization, which is why when I spoke previously, I said, I'll come back to this. So that is one part of it. Let's park that there. Then we have the overall cost, which, we very neatly bucket as overall equipment efficiency, or the OEE. Monitoring this is something else. Again, there's a cost to monitoring it, but the systems that are available to monitor it, when we get down to that, they start paying rich dividends. Because then we see, how do I keep my machines running and available to run continuously or to the maximum time possible? So I should not have avoidable breakdowns. Okay, I need to be able to do predictive maintenance. I need to be able to do condition-based maintenance. One step further, predictive also has a cost to it. Condition-based maintenance. Therefore, I need better sensor systems, better communication. The machines have to talk to my system. These are areas that we still need to address. Today, if we continue to see that as a cost, then we are putting ourselves into a delicate situation. Okay. Finally, with that whole thing comes delivery. And I appreciate the point, I think, that Mr. Chaudhary made on track and trace. Or was it, I don't know whether it was Mr. Sundaraman who made it before that. But track and trace is something so important. See, today the customer, as he has evolved, has reached a stage where today when we place an order on let's not take names, but on any delivery system, you will get an SMS saying that your order has been received. The product has left the warehouse. The product has reached the logistics center. The product has reached your city, and it is out for delivery. Okay. Now, if it takes 4 or 5 days, you will still say, I know what's happening. But otherwise, track and trace is so important to the customer today. That is why, once again, we need to think in terms of systems. So when you look at the whole thing, and of course, there is logistics and infrastructure, which is really being looked at right now, for whatever reasons, for whatever gains anybody has put their thoughts into it, but it is making a world of difference. I mean, I have personally driven on that Samruddhi Mahamarg just last week, and I know what a delight it was to drive at 120 kmph, continuously for 5 hours, without having to worry. Okay. The point is, and an important point here, I saw a lot of cases of tire shreds lying on the road. I saw accidents. So the government is doing one part of it. The systems and ecosystem also has to be geared up to take the benefit of it. So we need to look overall at productivity. Productivity, not just on how many pieces the man takes out per hour on the machine, but how many of them are perfect quality? How many of them are as per specification? How many of them are going to move to the next stage? You mentioned talk time, Mr. Chaudhary. I believe you did. How many today, put your hand on your heart and say, forget the big companies, are able to define what talk time is? It's only now that we are talking about it. We need to be sensitized to this. And this is where, again, hand-holding, yes, owner education, call it by any other name that you want. If we have, I've talked about 5 things. I've talked about quality, delivery, cost, productivity and ecosystem. If each one operates at 90% efficiency, do you know that 0.9 into 0.9 into 0.95 times is 0.59, which is not first class? And that is the trap that everybody feels I'm 90%. But at the end of the day, that's amounting to 59%. And that is I'm saying that is where we are letting ourselves down. That is where we need to focus. So those are my thoughts on the internal inefficiencies.
Thank you, Mr. Muraliya, for your exhaustive input on internal inefficiencies. Mr. Aditya, would you like to add to what Mr. Muraliya just said with respect to how big is the internal inefficiency problem with Indian manufacturers?
Sure. No, I think Mr. Muraliya had very emphatically, put these challenges in front of us. I just want to pick on one thread and elaborate because I have been, selling quality management solution to Indian customers for almost a couple of years in this company. I kind of concur with what Mr. Muraliya said that, there is a cost if you detect a problem once the event has happened, right? And this is a typical quality control mindset, I would say, which prevails with Indian manufacturers today. So by the way, we sell both quality assurance, which is basically management of the processes, as well as the quality control solutions. But as compared to my global customers, there is a huge skew between the preference of solutions with Indian customers. Indian customers tend to buy more quality control solutions, which is basically a post facto solution, whereas the benefit which you can derive more is from a quality assurance solution by tightening your processes so much that the event doesn't happen at all. So I think I pretty much concur that this is an internal inefficiency which we need to weed out somehow. And I think a lot to do with the cultural change which we need to go through, especially when it comes to looking at quality. Other aspect, which he spoke about was on productivity. Again, 100% concur with him. And my take is that, again, on productivity, you need to start defining your processes, that how do you want to calculate productivity, first of all. And, we talk about OEE. OEE is still original, equipment efficiency, is still at the equipment level, is still not at a line level or a plant level. So how do you sort of start looking at all the aspects together and then start delivering solutions for an overall plant efficiency or a line efficiency? So these, according to me, are certain areas where we need to look at, especially the internal inefficiencies, and figure out that, how do we kind of cater that in future.
Thank you. Mr. Shrikanta, how Indian companies can use modern technologies to improve productivity and also remove some of the internal inefficiency just now we spoke about?
Yeah, Rakesh, I think Aditya Chaudhary and Muraliya did talk of a lot of things. Possibly, I will give it a structure when I discuss this aspect. When we meet our customers and consult from Bosch, we adapt a 4-step staircase framework in which any manufacturer can really climb up the levers of productivity and efficiency. The first one is, of course, which Mr. Sunil Mehta was talking of, where you need to establish a connectivity layer or a connectivity framework in which all your assets can be connected. Some of them would be legacy machines, but workhorses which are delivering value, but then you have to connect and take the data out of them. So how do you establish this connectivity layer? What are the critical data you need to take from them? And how do you massage this data and send it to the upstream layers? That would be the first thing which any manufacturer has to look at. Without a proper connectivity layer, forget productivity, nothing else can be achieved. The second step of the staircase is the visualization. Actually, I think it was Deming or somebody told that what you cannot measure, you can't improve. So first you need to measure what are your inefficiencies, and then only you can understand where you are losing out and how you can improve it. So there was talk of OEE, that is overall equipment effectiveness, and many other KPIs like that, yield, productivity. If you can visualize all of them in a dashboard, if the executives can see their dashboard, if the operational people can see their efficiencies, then at least they will know where they are lacking and how they can draw up plans to improvise that. So the second stage is definitely in terms of visualization. This visualization can also lead to some amount of diagnostic things. That means possibly if you can drill down whether your OE of the plant or the line can be drilled down to a OE of which mission is really bringing the entire thing down. So a drill down dashboard and a root cause enabling solutions could help it. There are many such solutions in the market. The third area is, of course, in terms of prediction, where the new technologies of AI and ML come into play. When I was meeting one of the vice presidents of a big automotive company, he was telling, of course, they were very mature in terms of Industry 4.0. They told many of the solutions you give are more of policing. That means I find out who is doing mistake or what is happening wrong. Can I get something which is prediction? That means I want to know what will happen tomorrow. I want to know what will happen in the future. So modern technologies, data analytics, artificial intelligence, the machine language algorithms can really help you in prediction. So they can look at the historical data of what you have. They can look at how your operation or process has behaved, and it can tell you whether, if you continue doing this, whether you are going to produce a good part or a bad part. And this can happen in terms of the process, in terms of the quality, in terms of maintenance. So that's the prediction layer. So you need to establish solutions on the prediction layer, prediction and prescription. And once you have got solutions which can do all these things, then the remaining thing is your holy grail. That is where you take your company on a new business model. Because Industry 4.0 technologies can really provide that. I remember earlier water filters or filtration of water, you buy the entire equipment, you spend money. But now I have seen people who are able to give you paper bottle of water or paper cup of water, what you take. So when you enter into a mission as a service or a product as a service business model, you need to have your product IoTified. That means your entire final product should be able to connect to the cloud, send out data even from the customer side. And then you can build in new service models for spares management, for remote diagnosis of your equipments or your machines or your products. So that brings you new revenue streams. So a manufacturer has to walk all these 4 steps, right, from connectivity, visualization, prediction, and then new business models. And there are solutions. And as Mr. Muralia continuously emphasized, it needs a handholding, it needs an owner's education, it needs good partners or consultants who can help you do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srikanta. So with this, we come to a last question of this panel discussion. I would request each one of our panelists to address this question. So can you give us 1 or 2 tips, very key important tips to companies who are looking to adopt advanced technologies in their factories to maximize their investments? Starting with Mr. Sunil Mehta.
I would like to talk about 2 things. One is, first define what is the objective of the entire thing. It is not like that we need to have Industry 4.0 or digitalization of the entire factory in one go. It's a journey, or it's a step by step. So what are the objectives to be defined? And if the organization defines the objective of digitalization, and second thing is that choosing the right partner and the right technology is very, very important. So these are the areas where we as a Mitsubishi Electric doing last 2017 onwards, we are doing in India, and we are doing in a good way. And we have alliance partners which can give the solution on our behalf, and they are the IT companies, startups and everything. So important thing is that the objective to be defined, and the solutions are scalable. So you need to do it step by step, and the partners and the technologies on which exactly you want to take this further. So these are the areas. It's very, very important.
Mr. Marolia, what is your tips for the companies? Unmute yourself.
I seem to keep forgetting that. Okay. I would just like to start with a question that I ask a lot of the, our MSME business partners, specifically their operating people. And I'm going to put it here in the same sort of vernacular lingo. Hamari tankhwa kaun deta hai? And when we realize that it is the customer. So my first tip is, please keep an eye on your customer and what your customer expects, and map what you have, identify the gaps. And then once you have pinpointed those specific needs, okay, then you find your specific solution, which then becomes the low-hanging fruit, which gives you that payback and gives you the confidence to make the next investment. That is point number one. Point number two is, please keep iterating, please keep reviewing, and please keep evolving, because you may be comfortable today, but that does not mean you will be comfortable tomorrow. The world is moving fast. So these are the 2 points that I would like to give as my little bit of gyan on this subject.
Mr. Aditya, what's your tips?
Yeah, so, it's not really a tip, but, obviously, looking at various industries, manufacturing can learn quite a lot. First suggestion I have is that I think companies should look at really modernizing their machines and equipments. I think, there is definitely a merit in investing into a new machine, because it brings in a lot of efficiencies. It improves your quality, and ultimately, it results in more business for you going forward. Now, here I'd just like to cite example of Indigo Airlines, not in manufacturing. Look at their model, how they're working. Every few years, they just modernize their fleet. The planes can actually fly for 25, 30 years. But average life of an Indigo plane in that airlines is about 5 to 6 years. And the reason they do that is that it brings in a lot of fuel efficiencies to them. And at the same time, the customers are also happy that they are always flying a new machine, right? So that's the first advice from my side. The second is especially on weeding out some of the internal efficiencies, which we spoke about earlier in this panel. And I think the best way to weed out these internal efficiencies is to first of all define a process and then codify that process in a software. Now today the digital transformation is enabling companies to codify almost everything, be it your execution process for manufacturing, be it your quality management processes, everything can be codified into a software. Now once you do that, the adherence is ensured by the software, because software would not move until the time you adhere to that process. So to me, that is another essential element which companies should look at. So that's from my side, Rakesh.
Mr. Shrikanta, what's your tips?
Yeah, being asked this question at the end, I think many of my thunder has been stolen by the earlier speakers. Anyway, first thing which I would say is clear-cut focused vision from the management, and having a clear expectations or the expected objectives which needs to be met by the particular solution. And definitely you need to have a clear business case for that, because unless these things are clear, there is no point in going after an industry 4.0 or any technology. The second thing is, of course, Mr. Sunil Mehta mentioned, and coming from Bosch, being a consultant on the ground, I say that an experienced, reliable partner is going to help you a lot. And even though it is going to cost you something, but then that's a cost which you need to really undergo in order to have a very good, successful implementation. And the last one I would say is, many times we compare cost of solutions. You should never compare cost of solutions. You should compare cost of the total ownership. That means today you pay something, how much you are going to pay for maintaining it, for debugging it, whether the vendor is going to be there or not. So it's not for today. You should look at maybe 5 years down the line, 6 years, what is your total ownership cost rather than the solution cost. Yeah, there is it.
Thank you, Mr. Srikanta. So we have a couple of questions, means few questions which we got when registration of this webinar was done. I will take a couple of questions from the registered audience. So first is, will PLI scheme force companies to invest in advanced technologies for manufacturing? Mr. Marolia, would you like to take that question?
See, the PLI scheme, as the name suggests, it's looking at what is the end state that we want to achieve. So it's a productivity linked incentive. How to achieve that productivity link is, investing in modern technologies is just one of the solutions. As I said, there are a lot of intangibles that need to be addressed. The very definition of productivity itself comes into play over here. And this is where the important thing is going to be how the measure is done. So yes, there are certain factors that will play a role. If you ask me, yes, in due course that will happen, but there is no sort of fixed 1:1 correlation that I would like to put on it right now.
Anybody else who would like to take that question?
I think he was very clear in that answer.
Okay. And one more question is with respect to skilling and upskilling. So how important is skilling and training of the workforce for achieving manufacturing excellence? Yeah, Mr. Srikanta.
See, I mentioned this in my talk also. Most of these solutions, the digitalization solutions, do require a good amount of skills. And of course, the new age workforce comes with these skills, having been adapted using mobile phones. But then there is a senior to mid-senior level workforce which needs skilling on these digitalization technologies in terms of how to use them, how to operate them, how to maintain them. So skilling is very much required. And also in terms of the newer recruits who are coming inside the company, I think right now there is no barriers of mechanical, electrical, computers and such things, even though the engineering courses are arranged like that. On the manufacturing plant, all these are merging. So a mechanical engineer has to know about software. A software or an IT person should know about the OT layer or the operational level, the layer. So, and that's how these such solutions can be really effectively targeted. So I would say that skilling is a very much important thing before you embark on such a journey. Even in our wash plants, before they started implementing many of these Industry 4.0 solutions, there was a full-scale, all employees digitalization and upskilling program which happened, and that's how it helped us.
Yeah, maybe I would just like to add that the skilling is very, very important at the middle level and the senior level management. And for that, I think even the government of India, MHI, and we work with, there are skills, there are centers of excellence has been established. So one of them is based out of Pune, that is C4I4 Lab. So we are also part of it. Another one is in IIT Delhi, that is, we call it as a Foundation for Smart Manufacturing. Here we have the, irrespective of the brand or the factory automation products, sort of the labs has been set up. So the people can enroll themselves, and the faculties are trained on all this. Of course, IIT itself is this thing. So their faculties are trained and they can impart the training on the Industry 4.0 or maybe digitalization. And many people from Maruti Suzuki and Honda and all these people have benefited out of this training programs. So that definitely will help the middle level management and the senior level management to understand all these terminologies. We talk about big data, networks, protocols, and so many things which goes at the backside of this digitalization journey. So that things are available. And in Bangalore, there are two. So a lot of things are happening as far as the these skill improvement programs are across the country. And of course, we are also supporting universities to set up the curriculums for the 3rd year and the 4th year of engineering, this thing, maybe instrumentation or electronics and telecom and all these things, where we try to support them for changing or modernizing the curriculums or the syllabus for that. So that is also happening. Thank you.
So anybody wants to take that question? Anybody wants to add to it? Okay. So, so with this, we come to an end of this panel discussion. It was first of all, thank you to all our eminent panelists for sharing their valuable insight on an important topic. It was pleasure having you all here for this panel discussion. Thank you once again from IPF and SAP team. I would also like to thank our audience for supporting this event. We would look forward to your participation in the next 3i Expo webinar that is going to be held on April 5th. And the topic of discussion will be shop floor of the future. So see you again on the April 5th. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.